Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Indy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Well, happy Friday, everybody, and welcome in to the last day of this week as we head off onto the 4th of July vacation. Indiana Sports Beat, of course, coming to you right here in Bloomington. The Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, joined early by Alec Lasley, is making some travel arrangements today. Plenty to talk about, Alec. Welcome aboard, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. How you doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain. It's been a busy week. Things usually slow down this time of year for us. We need to get someone wearing blue in here now. I wore the red. You've got the white. And if John is wearing blue, that works out great. If not,
I've got gray on today, so that doesn't work, unfortunately.
Need to go put on a blue shirt. Lots of action going on. Normally, this is a slow down time, but it's not. There's a lot to make up for COVID, a lot to make up for these kids, a lot to make up for coaches. But one on the basketball side, which is what we're going to talk about with you, one thing I've noticed in recruiting, if you come to Indiana on a visit, they're not bringing kids in just to bring them in. If you come on a visit, you're more than likely getting offered.
Yeah, for the most part, especially in that 23 class. The last, I think it's they've had 6 class of 23 players go to IU for an unofficial visit. Those 6 did not have offers ahead of time, and then I believe it is 5 of them now that have left campus with an offer following that visit. So it just shows you, one, not only are these kids super interested in going to Indiana without an offer, but 2, the coaching staff is putting a huge priority to get involved into a lot of these class of 23 recruitments way earlier on than a lot of other coaches are at this point, but obviously way more than the previous staff. They just know how important setting kind of the groundwork and the foundation for the Indiana program is going to be with not only the 2022 class, but even more so in the 23 class, just due to the amount of players that they're obviously going to be losing in the next 2 years and kind of the unknown with everything going on in the transfer portal, and not knowing if kids are going to now stay for more than 1 year, even if they don't go pro. So they are making sure that they're out in front in a lot of these recruitments, and early on, they're making it a huge priority to do so.
Yeah, no question. There's going to be a lot of questions. They don't know what they're going to have. From talks I've had with people close to the program, I'm trying to think of the right word. The plan is to go after 2 guys for every position and basically let them fight it out. And I see this is how Mike Woodson and staff are doing the whole program, or running the whole program. It is on an earned, merit-based. If you're playing, it's because you're going to earn minutes. If you're on the floor, it's because you've earned it to be there. There's no more of the entitlement because I don't have anyone else to be in. He wants to make sure he has the talent, but not only has the talent, he has the talent that wants to play the most. So it's the old Tom Allen, iron sharpens iron thing, where that's exactly what they want. They want, 13 guys that can come in and rotate in and fight on the practice floor. They didn't have that before. They could not have a competitive practice a year ago, Alec. I mean, you could not put 5-on-5 and it be competitive. And that's no longer the case.
Yeah, and I think you see that with the guys that they're bringing in for visits, right? I mean, the majority of these guys coming in, just look at all the official visits for the class of 2022 this month. 3 of them are in the top 40 top 45-ish in the rankings, and you have a couple others who are still in the top 100 to 110 in the rankings. And you just didn't see that. You didn't see a lot of the top players in the country wanting to come to Indiana for visits in the past. And that's just what Mike Woodson was able to do in the previous 3 months here, getting Tamar Bates, getting Miller Kopp, getting Xavier Johnson. There's a lot of these guys now want to come to IU, and they want to come there because they know that not only is the staff going to be able to push them, but a lot of the guys around them are going to be able to push them as well, just because of the talent that you just said from 1 to 13. I don't know of the last time Indiana specifically had this talented of a team from 1 to 13, top to bottom. It's just one of the more talented rosters they've had in the past 10 years, I would say.
Oh, without question. And this is how it should have been for that entire period. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I don't understand why certain coaches weren't able to coach to recruit at this level, because you should be. When you have an Indiana behind you, you should be. And when you stop using Indiana as Indiana and stop promoting Indiana as Indiana, but stop being Indiana, that's where the problem came. And Mike Woodson has come in and said, no, this is Indiana, and this is going to be Indiana, how it was when I was here. And that's the exact way it has been. And that's not the same time as Dane Fife, but it's the same way. It's hard work, earn your minutes. The players that are on the floor are the ones that earn to be on the floor. And that doesn't matter how talented they were. I promise you, whether it was the Knights era or whomever, you're not on the floor if you're not worthy to be on the floor. And that had gone away. But, man, not only is that rebounding in an unbelievable manner, but the talent level is potentially, man, I've got to go back to the early 90s when I think of the talent depth on this team, how deep they could go. I mean, those teams could go deep because but the more important thing about that is they were setting up teams for the future. This is a little different scenario, a different beast. I think you can set up teams for a 2-year run now. You've got this year, next year, this year, next year. You've got to go from setting it up on a 3 and 4 year basis to a 1 and 2 year basis, and anything after that is gravy, added on. But right now, it's basically a 2-year program, I think, that you have to run. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think you could even go to 1 year at that point, just because, I mean, the transfer portal every single year now is going to be just another recruiting tool that we've talked about, obviously nonstop since it went into effect. But you don't know how many of these guys you're going to have now from year to year. You look at the roster that Indiana has right now, and they could have had an entirely different roster if this coaching staff wasn't in place. And obviously that shows you what the coaching staff was able to do and how they're going to be able to recruit in the future. So it sets yourself up for a very successful year after year. Obviously they need to continue to do that, but yeah, I mean, there's just so many unknowns with all these new rules that are now coming into place. You even look at the name, image, likeness that got passed as well. So there's just a lot of different things that are going to go into building a team each and every year. So I think you look at it as there's no more rebuilding. It's a 1 year. You go after it and you try to do the best you can for that year. And then the next year you retool again. I don't think you're going to see a lot of coaches continue to get 4, 5, 6 years. It's going to be more, 2 or 3. And if they're not able to get it done, then, you move on to the next one.
Well, that's going to make it even more difficult for schools to have to be dealing with that. And that's something that's not something Indiana's got to worry about right now. But more importantly, the fact that you've got a Mike Woodson, everyone was concerned about his age and this and that. Well, man, he's playing. I don't think that college basketball has ever been a more younger man's game from a coaching standpoint than it is right now. Because, like I just said, normally you could recruit on a 3-4 year plan. That's over. Because that would allow you to be a little more relaxed, I think, a little more sit back and plan a little bit. And now it's more always up on your edge, always up on the edge, like you said. But he's out as active as anybody. And I think he's digging it. I think he likes it. I think he likes the challenge of bringing his alma mater back. But the response that I've seen, that's been intriguing. These kids, they're responding very positively to everything that I've seen. Mike Woodson down, but especially from Mike Woodson down. It has been a nothing but a greatly positive. He is seen as nothing but a bonus by every one of these kids. So all those people, especially the national media that doubted this, it's kind of funny because I keep talking. It is actually maybe a perfect hire for Indiana. Maybe an absolute perfect hire. The absolute perfect recipe. Like Tom Allen was a very unorthodox hire for football. And when it was, no one thought that was going to work. He was just brought in, but that actually turned into crazy success. This was not that, but I also see this as being uber successful when it is run.
Absolutely. And I think not only are a lot of these recruits talking so highly of Coach Woodson and the rest of the coaching staff, but when I talk to either the AAU coaches or the high school coaches, they're saying the exact same thing. They know, what the previous staff either had relationships and didn't really work out the best, probably you could say. But a lot of these coaches tend to, talk a little bit into their players' ears about certain schools, certain relationships that they have on certain coaching staffs. And a lot of these high school coaches and AAU coaches have great relationships with every single member of that coaching staff already. And you just add Mike Woodson onto the top of that, a guy who we've talked about before, played at the highest level, coached at the highest level. That's just going to continue to add to that Indiana tradition that they have of getting back to the top of the Big Ten and nationally recognized. And it all starts with that coaching staff and those relationships and the trust that a lot of these players and coaches have to send their kids off to Indiana to develop, to get to the highest level.
Absolutely. And now that is back to being Indiana. And maybe more so, Indiana was not looked at, even during Bob Knight, it was not looked at as a vehicle to the NBA. As a matter of fact, it was always talked about how Bob Knight did not recruit NBA-type players, but he sure put a lot of them in the NBA because they were so fundamentally sound. But this is a staff that specifically is working with players to develop them for the college game, but to go on to the NBA. That's something that has never been offered at Indiana, I think, with that specifics in mind. There's no coach that's ever talked about it that we're grooming you. And Indiana has the staff that can do that exact thing and are doing that exact thing. And it is going to pay great dividends. I saw that just yesterday, Kofi Coburn in the transfer portal. He's already in the draft. So what that says, if he doesn't stay in the draft, he's going someplace else. The Big Ten is changing next year. Illinois is done. And I think Indiana could be now in that top three mix with Purdue and Michigan. It's just how well this team can gel. I don't want to get into predictions already and all that kind of stuff. But when you see the Big Ten is going to have a very, very different face this season. Who's going to have what? We don't know because it keeps changing. Illinois, they're done. Brad Underwood's 15 minutes. They're over. So we'll see about that. But what's coming up? There have been so many offers. Alec, the 2023 class. Austin Parks is the latest, a big center. We didn't really talk about him. Big kid out of Ohio. Call him kind of a regional kid. There's not – Indiana is going to be a great, great class next year as well. We went to the Charlie Hughes and saw a lot of talent there, and Xavier Booker and Jalen Williams. And there were so many guys with talent that Indiana wants to land those guys too. But man, it's going to be a mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're going to see it kind of pay off a little bit more in the class of 23. But I still think the class of 2022 that Indiana is going to bring in is going to be extremely talented and successful. But I think it may be just a 2-person class, and then you look at the transfer portal as well. But yeah, going to class of 23, you just said Austin Parks, Owen Freeman, another guy who visited this week and got the offer from Illinois. He's been blowing up, a top 100 kid in that class as well. And then earlier in the week, a late offer, a late bloomer as well in the class of 2022, Bryce Sensabaugh out of Florida that Indiana offered. He's looking to visit Indiana and take some official visits later this summer, about the August-September time. But he's a guy who has shot up the recruiting world here in probably the last week, landed about 10 super high major Power 5 offers in the last week. He missed all of his junior season due to a knee injury. So kind of getting late in there without a summer last year as well. He's kind of missed about a year and a half, you could say, of coaches actually seeing him. So that's one to keep an eye out for if you're looking for kind of a name under the radar right now for Indiana to potentially land. Bryce Sensabaugh is a guy that I keep an eye on moving forward.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that is kind of sneaky and sliding in there, but it looks like to quickly move up on the recruiting board fast.
Yep. Yeah, no, he's landed, like I said, in Cincinnati, Florida, Indiana, Wake Forest, all within the last couple of days. This week, got a handful more the week prior, and all of that is due to those couple weekends in June with coaches getting out and actually seeing kids. And that's why it was so valuable to all these players to have coaches actually back in person, live, seeing these recruits for the first time in 16 months.
How important was it for CJ Gunn to have the weekend he had last week at the Charlie Hughes?
Yeah. No, that was big. I think, him coming off of an ankle injury earlier this summer definitely kind of slowed him down. Wasn't playing in a ton of weekend events, but that 30-point outing, his whole weekend was phenomenal. He had another 26-point game in there as well, 16-point game with some really good defense against Jalen Washington too, and when they played Gary West. So that was a big weekend for him, but now it just shows you what he's going to be expected to do for Lawrence North this year without guys like Shamar Vance and DJ Hughes to help him out. So I think everyone was really waiting for his senior year when he was going to be the guy. He is yet to be the guy on any of his teams. And he showcased what he could do last year at times, but I think this year you're going to see a big jump for him, not only scoring wise, but just aggressive wise, and just see his game take another step in his development.
Kyle Filipkowski, another one of those guys who a big name that Indiana was able to get on campus. Just getting them here has seemed to be an enormous difference as well.
Yep, absolutely. And then the most recent one, Jalen Hood Shafino, this past week was on campus for an official visit, top 35 combo guard. But everything coming out of that was the visit went really well. He's visited Georgetown and Tennessee. Those are his other two officials. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that goes. But Indiana has a pretty legit shot at landing him as well, as long as they continue to push for him.
I mean, it's just a long, long list. Go to thehoosier.com. All of this is listed under, where do you keep it? You've got under the forums, you've got the basketball recruiting hot boards. Everything is all listed there for you to see. Make sure you go there. Alec's got great coverage and up-to-dated premium coverage that you can't get anywhere else talking to these players and potential recruits. What's anything new? What's on the horizon? What's the next thing that's going to drop?
Yeah, so for us, specifically the site, we'll have an updated hot board here coming out next week. Obviously, due to the amount of offers that have gone out, it's going to be critical to kind of weigh where all these prospects are actually at. And then in the end of July here, coming up in about 2 weeks, 3 straight live recruiting periods for a lot of these guys, again, to kind of wrap up the summer and get into then the fall. So a little bit of a dead zone here with no visits allowed coming up, but then we'll get back on the recruiting trail at the end of the month here.
And then this last thing, this is going to be a topic of conversation. Kofi Coburn, we mentioned him a minute ago, but there's always is this the new Kentucky? They don't recruit. They seem to recruit how they recruit before with I'm not going to say it, but now you're getting everybody else's best players, and that's again the only way that they seem to be able to build a team is to have someone else provide them the best players. But with having CJ Frederick, man, if they could get Kofi Coburn as well, it's just ridiculous. Hopefully not, but
yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what he does in terms of the NBA and potential for him to stay there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the talk right now seems to be Kentucky for him if he does stay in college. So Kentucky will be reloaded again going into next year, regardless of if he goes or not.
Here's the thing, the last thing I don't get. John Calipari does not send kids to the NBA. He has never developed a kid and sent to the NBA. I can't think of one kid that has come there, developed, was not considered to be already going to the NBA and only had to come because of the rule having to go to college. I can't think of one. And yet people think that, if I go there, I'm going to get to go to the NBA or more better. It's not true. They're not on TV any more than anybody else. It's a farce that is perpetuated, I guess.
Yep, couldn't have said it better myself.
There you go. Well, you did. So we'll let you go, man. Wrapping it up, the recruiting issues. So make sure you go to thehoosier.com. He's got everything there for you to find. What else is next week before you leave out of here?
Yeah, well, like I said, we'll be looking at an updated hot board for the class of 2022. There's going to be a lot of different movement there, so that's probably the biggest one. And then starting to look at dive into a little bit deeper of the class of 23, since there's been a lot of movement there for Indiana over the past week and a half.
Sounds good, brother. Appreciate you. We got to take a break. We're back with more from the Andy Moore Honda
right back
Studios.
to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. I don't know why I said that. Hello.
Have a good fourth.
See you too, brother. Anything else going on we need to know about?
Nope, that's it. No more visits for a while now, so it'll be a little bit slower. But football-wise, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming. Here, obviously, the 4th of July holiday tends to be the biggest day for every single high school player to commit on. Yeah,
Sunday, right?
So,
yeah.
Yep.
I really wish the NCAA would ban that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Everyone likes that day.
Maybe I should get Paul on today.
Yeah, you can see if he's still available. Yeah, I don't know what his plans are, but yeah, I know
we're not on Monday.
He's been busy. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the weekend. I will talk to you guys later.
Have a good one.
All right,
Alec.
man. See
ya.
you. All right. What's the John? When is Zach?
Zach, I think, is supposed to be. Well, I didn't tell him yet, but I think you told him yesterday, 10:20, and I can reiterate that with him if you want me to check.
No, I was just going to say if
get Paul at 10 if you want.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Paul can come on at 10, or he can come on anytime after 9:40. But we'll split this segment up
if you want to. Yeah, take this to about, well, I don't know what you want to do because we're already kind of behind, so you just do whatever the hell you want, I guess.
We're not behind. What are you talking about behind?
It's 9:28. Normally you would have braked about 10 minutes ago.
Braked or broke?
Broke. There you go.
Taking a break.
Also, I don't know if that email you forwarded me with that comment was made back in March.
No, right. I was just asking I don't remember the switch over.
I started back, I think it was March 22nd, if I remember right. Yeah.
Okay.
It was the day after my anniversary.
Okay. Sounds good.
You don't have to interrupt me when I'm just talking.
No, I'm just saying. Well, I just like once I hear once it's not something I'm concerned about, I'm like, okay,
Yeah, all good.
you got it. You're dealing with ADHD, man, to the nth degree. You don't
You want me to
understand.
before I bring us back in, do you want me to text Paul real quick?
Sure. See what he's doing.
Okay, sounds good.
Because there's a lot of commitments coming, Mr. Schutte.
Hopefully.
Long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
TGIF, baby, welcome back on this Friday. Anybody hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline? Yeah, I do like when you guys throw out where you're from. A lot of you I remember, some I don't. I know Dwayne's down there in the Evansville area. Jason checked in earlier. Jason Moore from the Memphis, Indiana area in the house. I know Tim Tebow was down in New Albany area. Ed, I do not recall where you are. Let's see. Another area I don't know. So let's get these areas. There's a comment. Looks like Coach Allen might be flipping the Arkansas running back to Indiana. That would be another nice get, but that would be important because of a flip. Because of a flip from an SEC school that's not on the rise to a place. Indiana's got a full room. It's not like they're hurting. They don't have like, hey, we got this open spot for you. Dustin Schutte joins us now from Saturday Tradition. I mean, that would be a good flip. That would be a really, really solid flip to me.
Well, anytime you can establish more depth at some of those key positions, it's going to be a good thing. And then, I haven't looked too much into it because if he's an Arkansas commit, then I don't know really too much about it at this time. But when you look at what Indiana's done, and we've talked about the difference between Indiana, they have always had, maybe not always, but they've had guys, their starters have been solid. They've had starters who can start for a lot of different teams in the Big Ten. The disparity comes in when you look at the depth. If somebody gets injured, in the third and fourth quarters, when you need that depth and guys to step up, that's where Indiana's really lacked. And the other part of it too is we talked about, and you'll see more of this with NIL and the transfer portal. I mean, you don't know who's going to be on your roster from one year to the next, maybe sometimes even 1 week to the next. So you have to go out and you have to recruit these guys. You have to make sure that you're getting a lot of talent at these positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Obviously, the offensive and defensive lines are important, but you want to make sure that if you have one guy that leaves, you got a couple guys back behind him who can fill that void. And I think that's kind of the mentality now. Obviously, Tom Allen can go into the transfer portal and flip some of those guys. He's done a good job of that this offseason, but you got to get depth and it's not over. Recruiting's not over till they sign on the dotted line.
No, and Tom Allen is now a guy that is not just a rah-rah guy. He's got the product to back it up. He's got the coaching staff to back it up. He's got the players to back it up. So, and he's got the success, enough success to back it up. And people can see that, yeah, they're going to challenge Ohio State. They should beat Michigan. They are going to challenge Penn State. They're going to challenge Iowa. They're going to be a formidable opponent. They're going to be a competitor in the Big Ten this year. They're competing for a Big Ten championship. I can say that with a straight face and mean it. Because you look back, I hate coulda, shoulda, wouldas because there's been so many in that program's history, especially with the bigs. They should have beat Ohio State last year. I said it yesterday. My gosh, you take away and I'm not talking about this ifs and buts. Man, you take away a fumbled interception in the red zone. You take away a fumbled reception at the goal line and a pick six that was the winning margin, Indiana could possibly win that game by 2 touchdowns.
No,
it's nuts, but it's real, but it didn't happen. Until it does, that's the deal you got to live with. They have done the other things. It took them too long to beat Michigan. They should beat Michigan a couple, 2-3 times before. It was just, and I just don't know. Everybody talks about that mental. Are they mentally strong? Well, okay, they've done that. So I think they're past that, man. They got to get a bowl win, but you've got a healthy schedule. This is not some ACC schedule, man. You're starting out on the road at Iowa, buddy. You better come with that chin. You better. My old coach said you better put your war bonnets on. Have them strapped up tight because it starts off on day one.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing about playing in the Big Ten East. Even if you have a favorable schedule, it's still incredibly difficult because you have to play Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan every year. And then Purdue, that's a rivalry game, so you can throw the records out the window in that one. And then usually you're going to draw at least Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern, one of those 3 teams. And so you've got a tough row ahead. And so they have an opportunity here. The thing that we've seen from Indiana in the past is they haven't really kind of built on their success. They would have a bowl game and then they'd kind of go back to the 4-8 or 5-7. I know they went to back-to-back bowl games under Kevin Wilson, but those were still 2 6-6 teams. I mean, you're talking about going from 8-5, and I think if you would have put Indiana on a 12-game schedule last year, they're probably 9-3 or 10-2. That's my guess. And so you're talking about trajecting upward. You're talking about building on that success. And so, as you mentioned, you have to come out again this season, and you've got to hit 8 or 9 wins. You've got to get some upsets. Maybe Indiana's maybe they don't. It's not technically going to be an upset, but anytime Indiana beats a Penn State or an Ohio State or a Michigan, it's going to be considered an upset in the world of college football. And then you got to win your bowl game. That's what we've talked about. That's the monkey on the back now. That's the chip on the shoulder. Once you get that, I mean, world of possibilities continues to open up, and you're seeing it on the recruiting trail. You're seeing coaches want to come to Indiana. High-level coaches want to come to Indiana. You're seeing kids in the transfer portal want to come to Indiana. I mean, I don't remember in my lifetime there ever being a better era and higher ceiling for this program. And so it's a really exciting time. But we talked about this yesterday. I mean, you're starting to see those kids in those different states take notice of Indiana. They're starting to notice that pitchfork logo. And that's a really good sign. You just have to continue to be successful on the football field. You can't slip back. At the very least, you have to get to a bowl game. You got to win that bowl game.
Absolutely. I agree with that. They should have won the last 2, as I've said over and over. But the sheer fact that this is going to be a Sunday is going to be a big sign, a big day for Indiana. Mm-hmm. A lot of commitments expected to be going out in college football. Which ones fall Indiana's way? There are several that are considering big programs, and it's going to be interesting to see which one of those fall. How does Indiana get that bump? We've seen some commitments. But that bump, they haven't gotten that big bump yet that we're waiting on that you just talked about and that we've talked about previously. Is this when it comes? Is this when it happens, or do they have to win that bowl game? I don't think they do, man. I think the kids see it.
Yeah, I think they do too. And I think that there's probably an aspect of this too. I don't want to say it's beneficial that Indiana didn't win the Big Ten last year, but the allure of going to a place like Indiana, at least right now, is these kids probably want to do something that has never been done in program history. I mean, back in the 60s, but they want a chance to beat an Ohio State. They want a chance to win a Big Ten championship game. So there's a little bit of that allure. Like, if I go there, I can help them do something they've never done in program history. So I don't think you necessarily have to win, but if you want to appeal to those high 4-star and 5-star guys, you're going to have to start winning bowl games. The other interesting thing about this is, I know we've gone down the rabbit hole of NIL in the past with this name, image, likeness, but apparently Michael Penix has set up a fee of about $500, a booking fee of $500. And let me tell you, while that might seem silly, if stuff like that works for him, that's also going to appeal to recruits, because what that message is sending is, hey, you don't have to go to Alabama. You don't have to go to Clemson or Ohio State for people to recognize you, for you to get quote unquote booked, or, to make an appearance at a big event or something like that. You can be the quarterback at Indiana. You can be the primetime player. And so I think that that's going to weigh in a little bit here too. Now, obviously that's going to take a little bit more time, but we talked about the negatives about the NIL. If that could be something where Tom Allen could say, hey, you know what? We had a quarterback who made $8,000 last year just by setting up a booking fee. You can come to Indiana. You can get recognized. So that's an interesting aspect of this. I know that's kind of diverging off of what we're really talking about on the recruiting field, but I don't think that I do think that eventually that will be a factor.
Absolutely. And I think that they don't have to worry about waiting. I think that they want to be, you stand out more at an Indiana than you're going to at Alabama, unless you are the guy, and the chances of you being the guy at Alabama or Clemson are very slim. But you can be one of the guys at Indiana that's on TV every week, that plays in the Big Ten competitively, the Big Ten East. You're not going to get any more TV exposure. So they could probably get more, to be honest with you. The Indiana's got relationships with Fox, the Big Ten Network. You're on TV. They turn guys at 3 stars into All-Americans. You're not going to not get exposure. The NFL will find you. And you're more apt, I think, to get developed here, because Indiana needs you more. They need you to develop more. So they work harder to develop these players as opposed to them coming in ready-made as much. So I think it just offers a greater opportunity for a lot of kids.
Well, right. And I think a good example would be, you look at, and I always use this comparison, you look at the recruiting rankings and some of the kids that places like Iowa and Wisconsin have brought in. I mean, those places produce pretty good NFL talent on a regular basis. But I don't think a lot of those kids, if they were to go to an Alabama, I don't know that they would step on the field, because they have so many, or, and to some degree, even in Ohio State, because they've got so many 4-star and 5-star guys that are ready to come in, make an immediate impact. Some of these guys at Iowa and Wisconsin, they take a year or two to get developed. They spend a redshirt season. And then, you look at Josie Jewell, who was like the 3-time leader in tackles in the Big Ten. And some of these other guys that come in as 2- and 3-star prospects and end up going to the NFL. I think that you can go to Indiana and you, as we've talked about, you can get developed into an all Big Ten player, an All-American, and then you can go into the NFL draft. We've seen it before. And I think that again is part of the appeal. You may not, and we've talked about this too with Indiana recruiting in the state of Ohio. These kids are coming in with a chip on their shoulder. If there's a big time program, these kids in Ohio, you ever go in the state, that's a Buckeye state. Everybody wants to play at Ohio State. If you're not being recruited and you go to Indiana, your goal is to prove to Ohio State why they should have recruited you. So I think that kind of mentality, the culture, the development you're going to get in Indiana, and then that blue collar, lunch pail, chip on your shoulder type of mentality, I think that's a perfect combination. Yeah, Indiana needs to have some of those 4-star guys and maybe a 5-star to regularly compete within Ohio State or at Penn State. But when you have a majority of those kind of players, again, as we've seen at Iowa and Wisconsin, you can win division titles. You can get to the Rose Bowl. You can compete for Big Ten championships. And I think that that's where Indiana and Tom Allen really want to live in terms of recruiting and development.
Yeah, and speaking of the James Joyner kid from Arkansas, just coming here, being on campus, and he got that dose of Tom Allen, and buddy, when you get that, well, I told Tom Allen that. I said, that's a huge difference. The quarterback from Texas was the same way, Josh Hoover. He's like, yeah, I want to go up there and throw and do all this. And his dad said, oh, you're sounding stupid. He ended up here, and he fell in love with the place, and I want to be here. Now you've got this kid. Oh, man, I got some thinking to do, man. He's committed to Arkansas, but it's like, whoa, what's going on here? You got Delon McCullough, who just came in from a Super Bowl participating and previously winning team. You've got it going on. It's just everybody loves everybody here. I would love that. Would be a great flip. I don't know that Tom Allen has really had a flip. I'm not going to count Samson James, but
Juwan Burgess from USC, I remember that was one of his first big time flips. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not what you're talking about, but that was a pretty sizable flip. I know, because it was his first year, and that's when you kind of realized that Tom Allen was a great recruiter.
Well, defense, if you're a defensive player, you knew what Tom Allen was about.
That's true,
for sure. And so I think that helped that a lot. But this would be a big for a number of reasons. Well, number one, it's from the SEC. Just a straight up flip from an SEC school, just because he went to campus, and it's like, oh my gosh, that is going to send a message that Indiana cannot purchase. Tom Allen, even with all his successes, can't purchase. You can't purchase that advertising. It's tremendous. But we got to take a break. But appreciate everybody. Mingo the Poets in Marion, Indiana. You got Robert Carter listening to us. The Truth down in the Evansville area said send some food and some money. My buddy Pete Clausen's up in Too Cold, Minnesota. Shakopee. Is that how you say that? Shakopee? I bet it's Shakopee.
Shakopee, probably.
Shakopee, Minnesota. Sounds like a Native American town. We're back with more. Spells says Robiel Sprint says Spells is announcing at 1 p.m. on the 4th, live on CBS HQ. Yeah, there's going to be a tons. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for
I cannot be out of focus.
Who said you were out of focus?
Some guy that lives here listening that I know.
Oh. I see you already started packing some of your background stuff.
Did you notice?
Yeah, it's not as busy.
It probably looks a little better, but when I move, I'm just going to I'm going to use an entire different room for this. So it's not, I'm kind of, that wall, I could reach behind and touch the wall. So
you don't want to be so claustrophobic.
Yeah. Desk with drawers, all that.
I don't know if you saw my text about Paul, but he can't join it all today.
Yeah, I did.
And Zach is good for 10:20.
That is wonderful. What's your prediction on Indiana right now?
Their record? Gosh, I don't know. I don't think they'll beat Ohio State. I don't think they'll beat Penn State.
I
would say
I'm giving them Penn State this time.
I
should have beat them there last time.
I would give well, the way that game ended, they're going to be ready for that one. I would say.
Well, how about them knocking Wapfiller out with a targeting concussion to start the game?
Right.
It's so hard to think about what the record could be because I feel like the Iowa game is so massive, and depending on how that goes, I think that could dictate very much what their overall record is.
That's
it does.
What I'm thinking too.
Iowa does not start off well.
Now, but if Iowa
barely
beats Indiana, that might not be as big of a thing as if they get destroyed by like 3 touchdowns.
I would push back on that a little bit because at least they get a bounce back with Idaho, and then if they beat Cincinnati, then you're kind of back on track.
That's true. They could bounce back.
I would say my expectation is it's hard for me to say 10-2. I'm going to say 9-3, but I think
the bare minimum expectation should be 9-3. That should be the bare minimum expectation, I think.
I would agree with that.
All right, I'm going to bring this back in.
For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this TGIF before July 4th. I hope everyone's prepared to have a great holiday weekend. Talk a little golf for a second. Golf has made some unique news this week. First of all, how would you like to be Bryson DeChambeau?
How would you like to be his caddy?
Well, apparently not very well, I guess. That's I haven't dug into that. So what was that about?
So yesterday, on Thursday, I believe it was, Bryson DeChambeau and his caddy, I can't think of his name. I apologize for that, but basically they said that they were doing the junior high taking a break. I don't know why. I don't know if there was a reason or an explanation given. There probably was, but I didn't see it. And then Brooks Koepka chimed in, and Tim Tucker. And then Brooks Koepka heard about this, chimed in on Twitter and said, "This is Caddy Appreciation Day." Thanked his caddy, said, "I wouldn't be where I am without you. We're best buds." So taking a shot at Bryson DeChambeau again. And I just like Brooks Koepka has risen to the top of my favorite golf list. I've always been a big Phil fan. I am a big Bryson DeChambeau fan. I think he's.
We're going to be talking about Phil next.
Yeah, that's another big story. But the Brooks Koepka
we're going to get to that one.
So
is anything come out of why?
Of why he let go of the caddy, or why they're taking a break?
The caddy quit, I think. I heard the caddy quit.
I didn't see anything, but there might be some literature out there as to why. I just didn't see it. I saw the quick news blurb and then Brooks's response to that, which was hilarious. It's great for golf, by the way. Like,
absolutely,
you need rivalries.
But you don't part ways the night before a tournament that you're the defending champion of.
Well, he does now.
That's just a weird thing. Yeah, okay. They're gonna lie about that. Well, let's talk about Phil, because I think it's a bigger story. All right. Yeah. What is your take on Phil on this? Because I think Phil's being you can fill it in with any number of blanks.
But the thing is it wasn't. I thought he was kind of standing up for the guy.
No, bull crap. He's getting railed on because he's being brought up about gambling with a known gambler, a mob guy, and the story just happened to come out at that time, and he's blaming, I guess, the Detroit media.
But this was a story from like 14 years ago.
But it never came out that he was involved until a week ago. That part of the story is just coming out. And that's why there was something to do with this other guy's. He had something else come up, another criminal deal, and it came out during that. And this just came out. But he's acting, to me, he's being a complete ass. I mean, hey, buddy, show your professionalism. Who you blaming? He's just storming away. Well, I can't play here with this kind of treatment. Well, who's treating you badly? They're reporting facts that just came out. that you participated in. So why, he's getting a pass, and I'm like, I think it's crap. I think the PGA should have said something. Should say something.
Well, yeah, but what are they going to say? They can't they can't force him to play in that tournament again.
You can't just but you can't walk away from a tournament just because you're pissed off because you gambled. You're a big time gambler. No, he walked away. I thought
he was going to play the rest of this tournament, and then he said he wasn't coming back.
Well, maybe that's true. I thought he withdrew.
Well, maybe he did. I didn't see much of this until last night, and I read the story. I mean, I every time there's been multiple things with Phil and gambling. It's not. Big time well over known. The years. But at the same time, he's also been pretty gracious to the fans, and I don't know if he was constantly acting like this, I would probably be a little bit more upset about it. But he's proven to be a pretty likable guy, very gracious. So it's hard for me.
I don't care about his gambling. He's lost over $2.5 million in Las Vegas. They've shown. I don't care. How much has he won?
Right. That's not. I mean, look at John Daly.
Playing golf.
What's the number he lost? It's
look at Charles Barkley.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Well,
it's their money. They can do whatever they want to with it. I don't care. Exactly. I don't have a problem with Phil's gambling. Michael Jordan was probably the biggest known golfer and gambler that there is today still.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with he's just over the report. You're right. He says he won't return to this. Yeah. But he shot a 69. So
he was 3 under. Yeah, he birdies 3 of his last 4 holes. I think the thing that is interesting to me, the reason I'm probably it would have been different to me if this was brought up and Phil was the guy who backed out of the $50,000 or whatever was owed. But if this guy didn't pay him and Phil's good with it, I don't understand what the point of.
Because he's a known reputed mobster.
Oh, well,
and it was brought back up because of something else that guy's going through criminally. But yeah, other than that, I'm like, dude, Phil, if he hadn't made such a big deal out of it, I think it would have gone away.
That's probably true.
Exactly what you're saying. He wasn't the bad guy. He didn't do anything. He got screwed out of $500,000.
Right.
But
yeah, that's probably true. He probably did. I agree with you there. He probably did make it a bigger deal than it needed to be. But that's why I say he's not had this kind of response very often. And so that's why I'm giving him the pass. And again, he said he's not going to return. So if he would have walked off the course, yeah, that's completely different. But not returning, I get that. I don't know why.
Oh, I think he's being a baby because he, just from his words, he said he did not feel appreciated for arranging his busy tournament schedule in order to play in Detroit, which marked his first tournament in Michigan since 2008, the 2008 PGA Championship in Oakland Hills. Quote, "It was so much effort for me to be here. I had to get up on that plane and sit down." No, I'm sorry, you didn't say that. "It was so much effort for me to be here and to have that type of unnecessary attack," he said. What attack? How was he attacked? That's what.
Yeah.
Here's my favorite part. Not like I care. It happened like 20-something years ago, but it's just the lack of appreciation. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see me coming back. Not that I don't love the people here. They have been great, but not with that type of thing happening. What? It's a story that just came out. Somebody did not dig this up 20 years ago and create it. This information just came out a week ago. Is it not supposed to be reported?
And let me I'll throw this out there too. I didn't hear that quote that you just read, but the fans, the reporters, they don't owe you anything. They're doing their job. I don't know. Again, I didn't read the complete story. I kind of read the Cliff Notes version of it, which is why I was able to, I made my opinion on it. I didn't see that quote. A reporter's job is to report on the news, is to, and while we talk about, certain things are maybe let it go, but he doesn't owe you anything. just because you're coming to the city, just because you're going to Detroit, doesn't mean that they should worship the ground you walk on. So
and not report the facts.
Right. If it's irrelevant, obviously, if it's a relevant story,
and this is relevant.
So
relevant, timely, and factual.
Right. You can't just attack people for a story you don't like. I mean, you can, but
he wasn't attacked in any way in this. He's the victim.
Right.
He got screwed out of $500,000.
So unless there's
you know what, a smarter guy would have said, "Hey man, you win some, you lose some," and went on, and just let it go, and then just keep ignoring it. But to do what he did, not the way to. I think he panicked.
Unless there's a personal relationship there with the guy, or that he's worried about something else leaking out that coming, that leading to some more digging and something else unflattering coming out. Yeah, I don't know why you would have that response to that story.
Let's see. We're getting close to a break time, and Zach Osterman, is he joining us at 10 or 10:20? John, the producer.
He's coming at 10:20.
Okay. Zach Osterman joins us at 10:20, so we'll be back with more to talk about, plenty to get to. And what do you want to talk about this 4th of July weekend?
We can talk about which cities have the best fireworks display, because we're going to argue about that.
No, there's no argument. But yeah, looking forward to that. So anything you guys want to talk about too, hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Getting lots of comments this morning. We appreciate you guys. And we're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're okay, I've had a second person that I am out of focus. You're not seeing that?
Actually, so it's on you. It's on. Someone mentioned this the other day. So you can't see it because it's your computer and you're seeing yourself. But there's moments where you come through a little fuzzy. Your sound isn't bad, but it's just your visuals.
Okay, well, I'm getting out and getting back in.
That's fun. By the way, to clarify, that Louisville fireworks display we were talking about the other day, Dustin, that's not a 4th of July display. That's actually the kickoff of the Kentucky Derby Festival.
Well, okay. So this is what a farce this is. I've been lied to.
No one lied to you. We were just talking about the overall best fireworks.
We were talking about 4th of July, and all of a sudden I get railroaded because Louisville has the best fireworks display in America, and it's not even 4th of July.
Well, it does. It just doesn't happen on the 4th. It happens in the usually first or second week in April. All right, hold on. Tim was asking me something. John, am I going to the Patoka Lake fireworks? Honestly, I do not think. Normally, we don't go to the fireworks, Tim. But
that change anything?
I have before.
Did that change anything?
Did that change anything? You look fine right now. You look fine.
I know I look fine. I always look fine.
But that's the point. Like, there's no blurriness right now.
I'm kidding. I'm so kidding.
Yeah, Tim, I don't know if we normally don't go to the Patoka Lake fireworks, but I have seen them before.
Is this another? So the Louisville fireworks, not even the 4th of July, Jim. So you lied. You lied.
What about it?
I was telling him Thunder over Louisville is not a 4th of July show. It's the Kentucky Derby Festival.
But hold on. But doesn't Louisville have that same company come in for the 4th of July?
I've never been to it if they do, so I don't know.
You've never oh wow. I've never been to it.
Now see, that's a problem. That's a problem for him. I Dustin, I'm with you on that. You can't be backing something and never seen the horse.
I've seen Thunder over Louisville, but
we're not talking about Thunder over Louisville.
Oh my goodness. Well then whatever. You're from here too, Jim. Why aren't you backing me up on this?
Oh, I'm from Southern Indiana. So
I used to live in Jeffersonville before we moved over here to Kentucky.
That's not Southern Indiana. That's like Rikers Island.
Oh. All right. I need to bring us back in.
Just kidding.
Much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome in on this Friday before the 4th of July weekend. You have to love when the 4th of July falls on either a Friday or a Monday. Actually, or Sunday, I guess it is, actually is, but you get Monday as the holiday. That's the Sunday, Monday. It should actually always be that way. Why can't we as a country just say, okay, that's the date, but we're going to celebrate it on the Monday?
Right. Make it
just makes it easy. Common sense, man. Common sense. I hope maybe Zach will wear Alec was on earlier and he was wearing white, which was perfect. I should have color coordinated with you and said, wear white or blue. You know, I was looking, could not find a red, white, and blue shirt. I don't own a red, white, and blue shirt, I guess. I don't have one.
I have it's black and white, but I saved the viewers because I do have an American flag tank top that I bought probably 10 years ago.
You could have worn that on top of a shirt.
I could have. That's true. I could have done that.
On top of a T-shirt, maybe.
Yep. And then
that would have been a requirement, yes.
Yeah, Well, yeah, because we're not trying to scare off any viewers on YouTube, so
or any hosts.
But I don't think that's true too. I don't have any red, white, and blue. I don't think either. I have all the three colors, but I don't have one that has them all on there.
Alan Hughes says good morning from Patoka Lake Campgrounds. He's south of us, but should be nice out there. I used to spend some time there. Not very far from where I'm from, down there south, like I said, south of Lawrence County, or east of French Lick, west of the Floyd Harrison area. Nice little area. Man-made lake, as is Lake Monroe. Two big man-made lakes here. John, John, the producer, is going to Patoka Lake. I forgot about that.
Yeah, during the break, I was conversating with Tim in the comments about that. Yeah,
that should be a good time. So they generally, some of these lakes have their own fireworks, but a lot of times the people bring their own because it's a lot better. Especially now that you can buy fireworks. I remember when you couldn't legally buy fireworks. Chris is ecstatic that the IU football could have a winning season. Well, that's having a winning season, at least for right now, is not even a thought. It's how much of a winning season can they have? And that's a great thought to think. I was looking at the schedule. There is not a team on their schedule that they cannot beat. As a matter of fact, 80% of the teams on their schedule, they should beat. How about that?
There you go.
80% of their teams, they should beat. And to be honest with you, I would make that 90, but you've got to, this year now, you've got to add in the road scenario. You're going to be at Penn State. You're going to be at Michigan. And I don't care if Michigan is a middling team. With 110,000 people, it makes a gigantic difference. But for Indiana, I think their offense is built for that.
You know what? I agree with you in that sense. And when you just mentioned that, I just thought about maybe playing at Iowa week 1 is a blessing in disguise, because you kind of get that out of the way. You're going on the road to play a big time program. I mean, those fans are rabid. That's a passionate fan base. Iowa's usually a really good football team. So that's going to kind of catapult you and prepare you. You're going to get those jitters out of the way early. It's not like you're having a home opener against, Georgia State or whoever it might be, or Indiana State, and you're going to have a half capacity crowd. You're going to go right into, I don't know how many Kinnick seats, but you're going to go into a rabid fan base. First game of the season, and it's going to be a high-profile game, probably 2 ranked teams. So even if Indiana loses that game, let's just say they lose that game, I still think it puts them – it gets that out of the way. So you are prepared to go to Michigan. You are prepared to go to Penn State. So you'd like to see Indiana win, obviously, and get off to a hot start with a 1-0 record, and then Idaho, and then you play Cincinnati at home. But I think that will at least eliminate those butterflies early in the season.
Good point. And last year, even though it was a crowdless environment, Iowa did not play well at home their first couple of games,
Right.
which very ironic because they lost. Those 2 games were critical to them, and losing there, they lost to Purdue, I think, who stunk.
Yep.
I don't think Purdue's going to be much this year either. But the Western side, man, it's pretty weak over there. Is Iowa the best team in the West?
No, well, probably
Wisconsin still up there. They still up there. I mean, I don't know where they are with their quarterback.
Graham Mertz, he struggled last season, but what you got to remember too is they lost their 2 best receivers. I mean, they were out for most of the season, so they get Kendrick Pryor back and Danny Davis back. Jake Ferguson is returning. Jalen Berger they got out of the backfield. They got another running back out of Clemson. I'm missing his name, but I think in the West, it's not as top heavy, but I think Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern, and Minnesota all could make an argument to win the West. I think those 4 teams. I don't think Purdue, Nebraska, or Illinois has a chance to do that. But those 4 teams, I mean, it's pretty balanced. Iowa could easily win it, but I would give the nudge to Wisconsin because of what they have returning on both sides of the football.
I predict that if Scott Frost does not go to a bowl game this year, that this is his last season at Nebraska.
Yep. I mean, okay, I thought about this because we talked about this last week too. We talked about that puts even more pressure with Bill Moose, the athletic director, stepping down, retiring on Frost.
Which I don't think that – I think that was a planned thing. I don't think that was accidental, just like Fred Glass. That was not accidental.
Well,
he stepped away because he knew that Archie Miller was going to have to be fired sooner rather than later, and that was his guy, and he could not put a second basketball coach that he had signed. It's time for him to go. So that was he got to take the gracious way out.
Well, and Bill Moose, Nebraska's paying him $3 million as an exit agreement. I don't know many maybe that's something that I'm just not aware of, but I don't know of many programs that pay a guy $3 million to retire. Usually you just kind of walk away from that. Maybe you get a long
Sometimes it's 10.
But sometimes the thing is with Scott Frost, Bill Moose he said we should be in that 8 to 9 win range. So even if Frost didn't make a bowl game under Bill Moose, I think he would have been terminated. And so I think, it's pretty much the same scenario. They have to get to a bowl game. Otherwise, they're going to be looking for a new head coach. I don't think there's another way around it. You can't go 4 seasons at Nebraska, not have a winning record, not make a bowl game, and expect to keep your job. It's not going to happen.
And I don't keep up with Nebraska, in the offseason, so I have no idea what's going on there. But usually you hear this and that, and I haven't really heard anything other than McCaffrey transferring out. And there's no buzz. There's zero buzz around Nebraska that I've seen. Now, of course, I'm covering Indiana and this side of the Big Ten, the Big East, Big Ten East. If there was a buzz, it carries over.
Well,
there's no buzz from Nebraska.
Well, let me say that I think that the expectations have been tempered, and they're a little bit more realistic in the sense that year 1, you didn't know what you were going to get. You knew it was a rebuilding project, but by year 2, everybody predicted Nebraska to win the West. And by year 3, people were saying Nebraska would be in the college football playoff, winning the Big Ten. Well, they're a long way from that. So I think that the expectation now is, can we just get to a bowl game? I think they've got the talent to do that. They've got 9 or 10 starters returning defensively. They got Adrian Martinez back, and while he struggled, it's still good to have your starting quarterback back. They got some really talented pieces with Omar Manning, Samurai Torre at wide receiver. Oliver Martin, Marquis Step out of the backfield. They've got their offensive line looked a lot better. So I think this is going to be a really good team, or I shouldn't say really good team. I think this is going to be a much improved team. The question is, Nebraska has looked good at times under Scott Frost, but they've been so inconsistent. If that inconsistency is still there, that's where if they get off to a rocky start, they play Illinois week 1. Illinois has 20-some super seniors returning. And then you play Oklahoma a few weeks. They could start the season 2-2, and you still have Ohio State, Michigan on the schedule, Iowa, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota. If you start 2-2, it's hard for me to get to 6 wins based on what they have on that schedule. And so that's why I think even bigger than we talked about Iowa and Indiana in week 1, Nebraska, that's a must-win game week 0 against Illinois, in my opinion. They have to win that game if they're going to get to 6 wins in a bowl.
Well, just something to note, Martha the Mop Lady tweeted out, this is the last day of seat selection for Indiana football season ticket holders. Very timely for that. Single game tickets go on sale July 13th. Highly recommend jumping on tickets quickly if you, this is his recommendation. The Cincinnati and Ohio State fans will
yes, they
grab those up. So yeah, that or scalpers. That's how you see it, and it drives me nuts. I mean, yeah, you've got to own this stadium now, because don't let Ohio State come in and turn it into Ohio State. I mean, so that's just been a question. I'm wondering how Indiana fans are going to be. How are they going to show the support? It's a 52,000 seat stadium, man. Fill that thing up.
They have to. There's no.
Well, you can't expect teams who have 90 and 100,000 seat stadiums packed and have that support. You can't play that, and you can't go home and have a 52,000 seat stadium but only have 35,000 of the fans, man. You've got to own it. The fans have to own it. So hopefully they will.
I mean, they've done everything that you would usually quote unquote require them to do. They, except for beat Ohio State, but there's not a lot of teams that are beating Ohio State. They beat Penn State. They beat Michigan. They've gone to back-to-back bowl games. They have back-to-back winning, not just winning records, not even just like a 7-6 season, 8-5 and 6-2. They've put a lot of separation between them and 500. So you got to get out there and support. Tom Allen's an easy guy to root for. They have a lot of guys returning. It's going to be a fun team to watch.
John is in a red, white, and boat with Hoosiers across the back, listening to some John Mellencamp.
That's good 4th of July music right there.
See. It's Shea McNally's got a flag shirt. Hope you're wearing it.
Nice.
So getting some 4th of July comments out there. Hey, we got more coming up. Zach Osterman from Indy Star, a good friend of the show, is going to join us next. We're back with him right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for
well, I guess I am wearing my House of Blues hat. If that counts.
That does not count. But I would let that count.
Thunder over Louisville doesn't count as real fireworks, and that definitely doesn't count as a blue hat.
It doesn't count as 4th of July fireworks.
Yeah.
Well, the other day, you're the one who brought up Thunder over Louisville, Jim. That's why I thought you'd back me up on it.
Well, it is the greatest fireworks display. I will agree with you there. It is listed as the greatest fireworks display in North America, but it's just not a July 4th one.
Yeah, but you got to think the budget in the city of Louisville would be ridiculous if they had 2 massive fireworks shows in 1 year like that.
Oh yeah, this thing goes on for freaking an hour.
It's like 30 minutes. And I think it's 30 minutes.
Whew. I thought it was like 45, man. It's they shut the bridge down. They've got 2 barges out in the middle of the river that go off simultaneously. The bridge across from Indiana to Kentucky, at the very end, they've got a waterfall of fireworks that just falls off for like 10 minutes.
Wow.
And before that is an air show.
Mm-hmm. And that's all day long.
Break it all out.
Oh, they do. Break it off, baby. Break it all out.
I grew up in Walton, and it was purely on the fireworks display was done by the volunteer fire department, and it was based purely on donations. So there was 2 or 3 straight years where it was the second largest fire display in the state, or fireworks display in the state on 4th of July. But it's such hit or miss because it depends on donations. So there's some years when it's like 7 minutes long. There's other years it's like 37 minutes long. So.
See, that's a great line from Coming to America. Donations. Don't put that in.
That was a pretty accurate what's the word? Impersonation.
I love that movie.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm talking about some great lines in that movie. Woo!
Boy, the coffee was not strong enough this morning.
Oh, I didn't sleep very well.
You never sleep well.
Yeah, I don't think that ever happens.
Since that power outage, I guess I haven't I used to have my phone, my TV shut off late.
Hey, we got 30 seconds, Jim. I don't know how close you are to coming back, but
I'm always close.
and then Zach's not here yet, but I'm sure he'll be here shortly.
Just hit the button.
Just hit the button.
Just hit it. All right,
You just hit the button. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Solersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Oh, happy Friday. It is I guess it's just a holiday Friday. We'll call it a holiday weekend because it is that. We will not be on Monday. Taking a rare day off, but we'll have a best of. Do you know what we have scheduled, John, the producer?
Yeah, we're going to have the replay of the Dick Vitale interview, Dane Fife. I'm going to go back and we're going to do the George Leach stuff with his barbecue truck and all that. And then we're also going to have the Todd Leary interview. And there's one more that I'm forgetting. Oh, Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover will be on there.
And lots of action this weekend with commitments still coming. And there's Zach Osterman. Hey, Zach, how are you doing, buddy?
Sorry, I was in the wrong email looking for you.
That's all right. We are in the wrong place all the time. Where there's been so much going on. The name, image, likeness was one of them. I know you were all over TV with that, being asked about that. And Indiana has solved that problem. Have schools that are not in the states that have legislation or pending legislation, have they just kind of solved their problem with the big blanket NCAA, you guys go do it, handle it?
Well, I think they've solved the initial problem, which is, this what would have been a vastly unleveled playing field between states that have laws allowing NIL and states that don't. And Indiana is one of the few in the country that doesn't even have any energy toward one. And I think people can draw their own conclusions on that. Obviously, the state has a long and mutually beneficial history with the NCAA, and particularly the city of Indianapolis does. But, that's the first problem. There are countless others. But, really it's in moments like this, I think a lot about, the scene in Apollo 13 when his crew is freaking out and Tom Hanks says, you're talking about problem, we're on step number 5, you're on step number 498. You just kind of have to figure this out as you go. I mean, there's so many, I would like to think that between on the record and off the record conversations I've had, good work I've read from other journalists and all that I have a pretty decent handle on this. And there's still a dozen questions a day that I have that I don't know the answers to. And then there's the whole environment around it too, which is, basically where do things like enforcement stand? Because, there are people that are concerned, this is so decentralized now, and the NCAA did kind of just get smacked around a little bit by the Supreme Court. How firm is everybody's sort of appetite for enforcement right now, that kind of thing, things like that. It just, there are a tons of different questions, and there's people who say, well, is it better to be in a state with a law or a state where the schools can just sort of figure it out for themselves? I think it's kind of 6 1/2 dozen because, a law is a little bit more rigid and doesn't allow you maybe some of the fluidity to be able to address challenges you couldn't foresee as they arise. On the other hand, a law does give you legal cover, to be able to say, well, that, we're only operating within the bounds of what we're told the law allows. It's going to be chaos a little bit, but we're also going to figure it out because, as I said to a high school coach I was talking to a few weeks ago about NIL and the portal and everything, we were talking about how much it could change. And I said, it will, but as long as you and me and 7 million other people sit down to watch Penn State, Ohio State, and ESPN on a Saturday night, we'll still have college sports and it'll still be fine. There have been other times in the history of the NCAA when we've thought, my God, is this going to ruin everything forever? And it didn't. We just figured out a new way to do it, and we're going to have to do that here.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that there's just so much that is hitting at the same time with the portal that you mentioned and all the change that brings about and the name, image, likeness, it all hit at once. And everything that college sports athletics have just changed so much within this short period. And these are just changes of enormous proportion that we have not seen the likes of ever. And so to see that so much happen at once, I think people are afraid that it's going to become a professional sport.
No, I mean, listen, it change is hard. And I don't mean to get philosophical about this, but change is hard.
True.
And, I can remember the realignment era, 2010, 2011, 2012, how chaotic that all seemed, how much it felt like, and not really felt like, it was tearing down, long existing relationships and power structures and, norms in college athletics. But you know what? Here we are 10 years later, and okay, we can make jokes about, Nebraska and the Big Ten and all that. But realistically, it figured itself out. And maybe, listen, I miss the old Big East basketball as much as anybody. But at the same time, we find a way to keep moving forward. And there are so many questions that come with this. And a lot of them don't, kind of have answers. I mean, this is a little bit to kind of further the metaphor. This is also a little bit like kind of the early days of the space program, where it's just sort of like, well, we don't know what the questions are going to be, so we don't know what the answers are going to be. We're just going to have to answer the questions as they come up. And if we got to invent plastic, we'll invent plastic. But we're just going to have to figure this out as we go, because there's a great scene. I keep referencing movies, forgive me, but there's a great scene in the movie 13 Days, which is about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it revolves around JFK and Robert Kennedy and a man named Ken O'Donnell, who's one of their chief advisors. And Ken O'Donnell, there's a point where he just says, there are no wise old heads. There's nobody we can go to that's an expert on this. It's just us in this room right now. And that's, I think sometimes it's important to remember that it's there are going to be times when there isn't somebody out there that you can say, well, they've got all the answers. They've done this before. There's different people who I think have educated themselves in this, people in college athletics, people around college athletics, people on the agent side. I know when you say agent, people just kind of shudder and immediately get this sort of negative connotation. Most agents act in really good faith. Genuinely, they do. And they try to do well for their clients, and they try to improve the conditions around whatever sports they work with or work around. There are people out there that are equipped and prepared and learned on this stuff, but there are no wise old heads. We're just going to have to figure it out. But again, college athletics isn't going anywhere. The appetite is still clearly there for it. And at least as things stand right now, with the vast majority of these cases, we're not talking about kids making $1 million a year. We're talking about small retail level transactions, $50 an Instagram post, $1,000 to spend a semester, doing stuff about Buffalo's, or I don't know. I'm making this up, obviously, but we're not talking about Papa John's pulling $1 million corporate sponsorship from IU Athletics and shifting it over to Trace Jackson Davis. That's not the way this market is going to work. That doesn't make any economic sense. So yeah, it's going to be a little weird, and there's going to be, there's going to be different things, and there's going to be times when it is difficult for people to navigate, and maybe it does create friction on a team or affect a recruitment, or there are, bad actors involved. But when wasn't that the case now? I mean, like that was the case. Like we can find the case before. I mean, I can find you all sorts of examples of stuff like that, 6 months ago, much less 24 hours ago. So
there was a time where freshmen couldn't even play.
Yeah.
And that was looked at as crazy. I mean, look at that now.
And go back to Oklahoma and the Regents case in 1984, and people thought that's just going to strip down everything about college athletics. The more we took the college football sort of bowl system and all that sort of thing away from the NCAA, there's just a natural tendency to see the problems of right now as the worst and most challenging and most perilous of all time. And I understand why, and this is undeniably a big one. But
Dustin, let you jump there. Want to jump in, Dustin?
Yeah, and Zach, one of the things that I think is going to be most beneficial, and I think a lot of people look at this NIL as opportunities for advertisement for, this car dealership's going to offer so-and-so X amount of dollars to shoot a commercial. But I've seen individual student athletes right now who are into car designs, and they're doing mock-ups. And before, they weren't able to sell a potential mock-up or, something like that. They can do artistry and sell it. To me, some of these student athletes, and probably a good majority of them, have an opportunity to make business decisions, to start their own brand. And it may have nothing to do with sports. And I think that that's kind of the thing that's getting looked over. Of course, there's going to be the Trevor Lawrence, the Justin Fields, even the Michael Penix, who might be the face of some company or some local business. But to me, you might have somebody who starts a clothing line. They wanted to go into
Al Durham.
Or they want to be an artist, and they're now able to market and sell. And if they're able to get a little bit more recognition because they put on a football jersey or a basketball jersey on Saturday afternoons, then I don't see the problem with that.
That's the part of this that I think it bemuses me that it's gotten this far. Like, my wife and I got married in Bloomington in 2012, and when we did, we went to the Jacobs School of Music. They have essentially an organized, I don't know if it's a portal or what, but there is an organized way in which you can contact music students at the Jacobs School to ask them to perform. And we had a cellist and a violinist come perform before and during our wedding. And I don't remember what we paid them, but we paid them. And that is not the Jacobs School or IU paying them for their service. That is a third party. That is the market seeking out their services that happen to be improved or more appealing because they're Jacobs School students. But it's allowed. It happens all the time. Music school students offer music and dance school students offer tutoring and class. They like to teach whatever it is they play or whatever it is they do. That's the part of this. It bemuses me that we got this far, and we're only just now getting to this, because I think it was, Jack Swarbrick has been pretty out in front of this for at least the last couple of years at Notre Dame, just saying student athletes should be treated just like any other student. We already treat them in some ways. We hold them to even higher standards in terms of, what we expect of them from a behavioral perspective, the spotlight we hold them under, the degree to which they can't skip classes the way that maybe if you skip class, nobody's going to care as long as your teacher, isn't going to fail you for it. Well, if an athlete starts skipping classes, they can get in trouble with their coach, or they can get in trouble with their academic services people. And Swarbrick's point is just, it doesn't compute. And I'm paraphrasing, but I don't have his exact quote. But the way he was sort of saying it, at least, was it didn't compute to him that athletes could be, basically students, except in these key ways that every other student can be. And so this isn't schools paying kids.
Right.
That's really important. And I think people want to say that it is, but it's not. And it's not even necessarily schools providing kids with opportunities other students wouldn't get. Now, listen, Michael Penix is probably going to make more money off of his Instagram posts or whatever than I made working at the student paper in, mid-late 2000s. The skills I gained working under journalism school professors helped me become a better reporter and writer. The skills he's gained working under his coaches and his strength coaches and all those different people has helped make him a better quarterback. But there's still really no difference there, because the market just simply says, fair or not, that a journalist's work isn't worth as much as a quarterback's work. And if you think that that's a distortion of reality in college, wait until you get into the pros. and you start making $40,000 a year interviewing athletes that make $20 million a year.
Great point.
So my point is, this is the part of this that it felt like we should have gotten to a long time ago. And frankly, we really should have, if for no reason other than a practical purpose, that if the NCAA could have organized itself in a way to move toward this, 5-10 years ago, when it was clear that the appetite was building for this, when it was clear that amateurism as a structure was just was becoming more and more widely unpalatable as college athletics made a lot more money. That's really, I think, what's been the catalyst for this. I mean, if you go back to the 80s, college basketball coaches, the difference in salary between a college basketball coach and a college president wasn't what it is now. That has exploded in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. What did Bob Knight make at Indiana?
He made six figures for, I think, a lot of his time at Indiana. He may have been over $1 million by the time he was dismissed, but it's still just it wasn't until probably the late 90s, really into the 2000s, that this started to become a much more mainstream thing. And I don't think it's by accident that Ed O'Bannon's lawsuit is filed 2 years after the arrival of the Big Ten Network, because that's when it becomes very clear to everyone that we can't put an exact dollar sign on it, but what's coming is going to be a financial windfall for the school, for the departments, and therefore for the programs, the coaches, the administrators, et cetera. And there have been countless examples of athletics departments exploding spending, not just on coaches' salaries, but also administrative salaries and positions and facilities and travel and different things like that. And so my point is, the name, image, and likeness thing is really something the NCAA should have been out ahead of a long time ago. I know this is a rambling answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's very fulfilling, because they were sure out in front of getting the Big Ten Network set up, which is bringing us in tens of millions of dollars to these schools. So I agree. They knew they were going to have all of this revenue coming in. So they should have planned well ahead of this. And I used to blame Mark Emmert a lot. And I finally realized I've got to stop. It's not Mark Emmert. He's just a paid puppet head for the presidents who are paying him to say this. And so I would say it too, if I was paid $3 or $4 million a year to say that. And he did a good job of it.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, Mark Emmert surely could have done more, surely could have been more transformative, pushed harder for different things. But you're right. At the end of the day, he is the president of an association that acts at the will of its members. He cannot act unilaterally. He's not Kennesaw Mountain Landis. He can't walk in and just basically say, you want me to clean up the sport? I have czar-like power and no one can challenge me, and I'm just going to do whatever I see fit. That's not how it works. And I think I may have said this when we talked about this before, Jim, but I suspect if we could get, 10 smart, informed people in a room and get them to speak candidly, I think where the disconnect on this is, one of the key disconnects has probably been athletics officials and university officials. And what I mean by that is, I think probably the boots on the ground athletics department employees, even up to and including athletic directors, probably could have told you this was coming. That they could have said, listen, the amount of money we're making is becoming a little bit obscene to just kind of keep parroting these lines that we don't have money to pay athletes and there's no space in the market for athletes. And we can see the tide kind of turning on that, even within our fans, much less the general public, which is not going to have any sort of, built-in bias toward the status quo in NCAA sports. And maybe it's time to start exploring these sorts of things. Whereas university presidents, I don't think are malicious or nefarious, but like the vast majority of them really aren't that engaged in athletics. And I think they don't want to be, because they don't want it to be perceived that they care about athletics pursuits at their universities over other academic missions. And so that, like Michael McRobbie is an example, and McRobbie's probably been more hands-off than the average. And maybe there are times where that wasn't very helpful. But I think McRobbie's attitude in general has been a healthy one, which is, I've got an athletic director I trust. I'm going to let them manage this day to day, because I can't be seen to be the president who's just got his fingers in all the pies in athletics. Quite frankly, McRobbie's predecessor was that way, and it was disastrous. And I think most university presidents just don't want that perception to exist, and probably at some level are a little bit afraid of the idea of $1 million student. But, sometimes we have to face our fears, and we probably should have a while ago.
Yeah, life is life, and that happens in life sometimes. You have prodigies that, for whatever reason, they end up. The hell, there are kids that are on YouTube that are making thousands and thousands of dollars. But I agree, and I said this a lot on the show, and I don't understand why the athletics directors are not the guys that get to make the decisions on these things, because they are the ones that's charged with it. They're the ones that's day-to-day involved in it. They know the numbers, they know the results, they know what's coming, they know the trends. They know that's their department, that's their company, I guess you'd say, that they run, but yet they are not the ones making the decisions. The people who are the least involved, the presidents, are the ones that make these decisions. And I think that is disastrous for college athletics. I think we would probably be in a much better shape if the ADs were making the decisions and not the presidents.
I think one of the interesting sort of 3-year, 5-year, 10-year fallout things to track with all this is the way that power is shifted around. Already, again, this move, at least in the short term, to allow schools to basically set their own NIL policy, represents a remarkable decentralization of NCAA power. Like I can't remember the only sort of comparable in the last 10 to 15 years move I can remember is the move to autonomy from the Power Five. And even then, the NCAA almost just sort of shifting just an entire wing of its structure over to the schools is pretty remarkable. The conferences don't appear to be stepping in yet to organize things, and I don't think they want to, because, like the Big Ten is an example. Some states have NIL laws, some don't. So I don't think the conferences want to suddenly sort of try to step in and fix this themselves. Everybody wants a federal solution. But in the meantime, power is a little bit like water. It's going to find every crack. It's going to find a place to run. And the more of it that moves away from the NCAA, I don't think the NCAA will ever cease to exist. It has a very strong brand. It exists in a very, sort of sturdy marketplace in terms of just how, it's name recognition and things like that. But 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, does the governing process of college athletics look different? Do the conferences take on an even bigger role? Do we see some further schism within Division I, whether it's between FCS and FBS or Power Five and Group of Five or whatever it is? I wouldn't be surprised if, these kinds of upheavals tend to change things. And I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's worse. I think we'll probably wind up looking back on this and saying it was a real sort of, just like the Regents case, just like the BCS, and just like realignment, I think we'll say it was a real sort of pivot point moment in the history of college athletics in this country.
Absolutely. My only fear is the self-enforcement. That's a gigantic fear, but we'll have to see how that plays out, like you said. What do you have coming up? It's a July 4th weekend. I hope you got the weekend off. I know there's probably going to be a lot of commitments coming on Sunday that we all have to pay attention to, but hopefully you get to take some time to yourself with the youngster.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take a little easy, spend some time with family, and this is kind of charge the batteries a little bit because as well as I do, Jim. Once we had Big Ten Media Day in about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, something like that. Yeah. It doesn't stop from there. So yeah, just charge the batteries up a little bit. I will be going to the Bahamas later this year, so it'll be nice to get hopefully hurricane season will be kind to us, but that could be less than ideal. But for now, just kind of flying low to the ground and charging back up for another new season. And then what's the most recent podcast with Chronic? Oh, we haven't done one in a while. Our work schedule is up, to be honest with you. We probably need to get back on that horse soon enough, but I've been lazy about it. My wife and I moved into a bigger house here in Bloomington fairly recently. Congratulations. Just been consumed with, still swimming. And if you could see this room behind me, it's still nothing but boxes. So, I'm getting ready to do the same thing. And Dane Fife is looking to do that. So a lot of moving going on, it seems like, in Bloomington. Well, if you need boxes, I got tons. Yes, sir. I will come get them from you, and I'm not kidding. I will send you a text. But, man, I hope you and the family have a great 4th of July weekend. I can't thank you enough. We appreciate you as always and look forward to doing it again soon, man. Hey, thanks for having me, Jim. Good talking to you. You bet. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. If you're not a subscriber, you should be. I am. But Zach covers all things Indiana and does a hell of a job of it. Looking forward to finishing out this segment of the show, man. We'll be back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, did my fuzziness go away?
I haven't noticed it at all since you switched or did the back on thing.
I wiped the screen down. I wonder if maybe there was like a thumbprint on it or something, and it makes it.
No, so like it wasn't anything like that. It was like,
well, if it had a thumbprint,
it looked like you had connection issues, kind of thing.
Well,
but it wasn't coming through with the audio. It was just with the video.
Since I lost my good router, I've got a superb new router system, but I've been waiting to move to use that hopefully, but because that's unboxing and hooking up, because when I put this router on, none of my damn YouTube TVs would connect to it. And I'm like, gosh, now my Wi-Fi is open. Oh man.
Will you be in a new place by Tuesday?
This Tuesday?
Well, I know you're already packing, so I didn't know what your schedule
was
like.
No. I don't know if it's going to be. It'll probably be within the next month.
Hopefully, it's not around the time when Big Ten Media Days are, because that would be sucky, wouldn't it?
Well, I can promise you that it won't be. I won't do that. Speaking of, stay on me. I've got to.
I know, yeah.
I'm going to Indianapolis next Wednesday. I need to. I don't know who to go to, who to call. I need to go get
setting up where you can do the show live.
What do you call the mobile hotspot Wi-Fi you plug into your laptop?
I've never seen one of those. Plug into your laptop?
Man. A stick, man. It's just a stick. It's
I mean, you said mobile hotspot, and that just what it's called?
I think so. I gotta get a mobile hotspot.
Here, Tony, this is a comment of explaining pixelation problems. This is what it looks like. It looks like you're very fuzzy pixelated. It's not. Is it still with your camera? No, it's not doing that anymore. It's not doing it anymore. But that's a good description of what the problem was.
Hey Jim, it's in your TV. Have Roku or Roku dropped YouTube and some other providers have dropped.
I'm not sure if that has anything to do with that, but
no. What happened was it blew my router out.
Oh, I got you.
And I had to put a different router on it. And now that's not. I got one of them connected to it, but the other one they usually would just connect, and I'm like, it won't connect to the Wi-Fi. So because the name is different,
and I'm not. Yeah, I've got to change it a third time. I'm like, I'm not changing it a third time.
All right. Well,
we can't have pixelation problems. I look bad enough as it is.
Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
How is everyone doing? I hope you're ready for this July 4th weekend. I am ready, certainly. I hope that Mr. Schutte is ready. I hope that you're ready. I see a lot of you already because you're down at Cumberland and Patoka and all over the different places. John, the producer, is heading to Patoka. What are you doing, Mr. Schutte?
Oh, it's a big festival down here in Kennesaw, and I live right on Main Street. So
down on Main Street.
Down on Main Street. So there's a big festival. There's live music. There's vendors. There's a parade. They'll shoot the fireworks off, obviously, at the end of the night. And then we have a parking deck attached to our apartment complex. You can go up and get the best view of the fireworks in the city. So that, and I'll probably have a few adult beverages, probably indulge, break out that American flag tank top. And as Zach said, he put it best, recharge the batteries. I've taken a couple days off, not doing anything with Saturday tradition these next few days, other than maybe keeping a little bit of a watchful eye on some of the commitments. But other than that, just relaxing because, for a lot of people, it's after Big Ten Media Days that things really ramps up. But really, on our end, after 4th of July is when we really start to ramp up our coverage. So this will be a big weekend. What you got there?
That is Big Ten Media Days.
The 22nd, 23rd.
Marked on the calendar. Just 3 weeks away. 1, 2, 3. 3 weeks will be on the second day right now. That's crazy. And it'll be here before you know it. And that's the funny thing. It'll be here before you know it. And yeah, we're all talking about this is usually the time to recharge the batteries. Hasn't really been that, which is cool. A lot of it's because of COVID last year and all that, but it's been an extra busier than normal recharge time. So I'm like, daggone, man, it's something every day. Which is great, not complaining, but yeah, it's hopefully this is when you hear us talking about this. Yeah, we really want to do less right now because once that happens, it's 14 hours a day.
Yep.
What was it called? Everybody used to call it 24/7, 365. It's 25/8, 366. And once it hits from that time, it's busy, and then you got all the sports going. Then you're going to have soccer back in the fall, which we didn't have last year. You're going to have a successful football program. Women's soccer, is that played in the fall as well, I believe.
Volleyball.
So you've got 2 new coaches I saw hired for the women's soccer program at Indiana, which that shows that, hey, they were ranked last year. Coach Benecom, he's wanting to continue that. A volleyball. We haven't talked to Coach Aird and bet need to get him on soon. That was last year was a big hit to him, I think, because he really was momentum. He had momentum going in that first year with but his recruiting is not hurt. So this could be a gigantic year. I haven't mentioned them because there are 6 programs at Indiana that are poised to all be good at the same time. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, and I'm missing one. But that has not happened. I mean, and now that didn't even include volleyball. I don't know if they're ready to do that yet because the Big Ten is, if you're not loaded. Big Ten is the volleyball. I thought that the Pac-10. I always thought it was the Pac-10. You would think that UCLA, USC, Stanford, year in, year out, Penn State, Wisconsin. What, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Are you freaking kidding me? The Big Ten is the volleyball leader. Then you've got wrestling.
Yep. It's not uncommon to see 6 to 8 or maybe even nine volleyball teams in the Big Ten ranked in the top 25.
It's unbelievable. That blows my mind. But in Indiana is one of the bigger volleyball states from below college, from what I understand. So see what Coach Eric can get done. But just lots of stuff to do, man. People getting out in some normalcy, getting back into the habit of going to restaurants, to concerts, to sporting events.
Yeah.
What should Indiana do football wise? Because there are people that are not into the habit of going back out. I see a lot of people wearing masks yet, which is fine. I don't care, but I'm just saying. So there's a lot of precautions. You want those people in the stands. Not September, the week after September 4th, was September 11th, for that first home game.
Yeah.
So what should they do to, besides, the product on the field? They got to do some other stuff. I think Indiana really needs to empty the promotional bucket on football this year and go at it. Make a run, get people in the seats, show them the product, and then they've got to come back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because you can make a really good pitch, obviously, for getting up season tickets and single game tickets based on what you've seen the last couple of years, based on the coaching, the staff hires. Tom Allen is a really likable coach. He's an energetic coach. He appreciates all the fans that come out to the games. So it's going to be interesting, because this is almost navigating new territory. I mean, Indiana, obviously every college wants to sell as many season tickets as possible, but Indiana has really never had the kind of backing. They've never had the product on the field where they can make that sort of pitch. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do and try to get more fans out there. I do think there's obviously going to be people that are still not comfortable going out and sitting in a 52,000 seat stadium, and that's perfectly fine. Or you might have people that want to do it and wear a mask, and that's fine too. But I do think that going through what we have gone through the past, year and a half, with nobody being able to attend games, I think that that's going to spark the interest. And more people are going to be willing to go out to games. But I do still think, and we're in July now, so we're kind of narrowing the gap. I do still think there's some hesitancy from people, and they want to be sure that before they spend their dollar, they want to make sure that it's still going to be 100% capacity. So there might be you might see a tick in ticket sales into August.
It's 100% capacity. That's not, if it's not, that means there's more, we got more problems than that.
But that's what I'm saying. They may, with all this, with anything that could happen and the way everything shut down, they may not want to spend their money before they know for sure. So, and that's why I said they might wait until they get closer. They may not care about seat assignments. They want to make sure that they're going to purchase their tickets in mid-August. And so I'm interested to see how that goes. I don't know what Indiana's season ticket sales look like right now. Maybe that's not even going to be an issue. But there's really, in terms of fan support, in terms of what you're getting as a product, in terms of a likable team, there's really no excuse to not be at Memorial Stadium this fall. This team has done everything the fans have asked it to do. And so why wouldn't you go out and Indiana's tickets are a lot cheaper. They're probably a fourth, if not less, of the cost than what you would normally see at an Ohio State, a Michigan, Penn State.
Actually, that's not true. Maybe some tickets, but I think because they have so many tickets that they get to sell, that they're just selling double the amount of tickets.
I
think an Indiana football ticket's like $47.
Well, let me say this.
Now they used to be all the same. It didn't matter where you sat. Now they've changed that, I think. So I'm not exactly sure I'm trying to pull it up, but you can't see. But it used to be, it doesn't matter if you sat in row 1 or row 50, same price. They've changed that.
Well, let me say that I've sat in visiting stadiums, or I've sat in other stadiums for Ohio State games, and fans say it's cheaper or it's less of a pain to get even season tickets for an opponent just to see their one team, just to see Ohio State play in a visiting stadium. So that's where I say it might be cheaper. A lot of these other schools too, there's some sort of tax. So you might pay $250 for season tickets, but you may also have to make a $250 donation to the athletic department in order to get those tickets. So while at face value might be the same, you may be paying a back end charge that goes directly to the athletic department at some of these other schools.
Or you can get on the IU men's basketball wait list.
You could do that too.
What if they have a wait list one of these days for football? Who knows?
That would be a crazy turn of events.
But it's, you know what we do have? Nope, not impossible. But you know what we do have? It is July 4th weekend. I should have had John send off some fireworks. But be safe. Be safe out there. Make sure your kids are safe. If you're traveling, be safe. If you're camping, be safe. Whatever you're doing, be safe. Have fun. Do something nice for somebody. Have an enjoyable heck of a weekend. What are you doing, Dustin? What's the big plans?
I have some family coming up this weekend, Friday through Monday, and just gonna relax and just enjoy the holiday. Take a load off.
Try to do the exact same thing, man. And I hope you all do as well. Happy 4th of July to everybody. Cannot thank you guys enough. Without you all, there is no us. So go out and have fun. We appreciate you so much. And until Tuesday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.